Welcome in as we are wrapping up 2025, and it is time for the best of the year. This is a really exciting time for all of us, really, at RiverBender.com, as we get to kind of kick back, relax with our families for a little bit, and prepare for a super busy 2026. I mean, we got midterms coming up, primary days right upon us, but we'll get to all of that business when the new year comes around. The most important thing is gathering around with your loved ones and just having a great rest of your 2025, whether it's Christmas or the new year. We thank you for making 2025 a great year as RiverBender.com kicks off 20 years in the 618. Thank you guys for being a part of it. And now, without further ado, we take you right to the best of 2025 right here on our daily show on RiverBender.com. Show on a Wednesday. Keith Short back in the studio, and really fascinating, Keith. The last conversation we had, a lot of people were just really intrigued by it, I think, to say the least. A lot of people tuned in on demand just to catch it again, and it shows you, I think, that, and me, that this is such a fascinating topic that people want to learn more about.
Those are mostly my relatives. I assure you.
That's true.
No, it is interesting. It is interesting, and it's one of those things where you have to be careful when you're in my position because you can tell too many war stories. Yeah. I did want to, I mentioned to you right before we went on air, I want to read something to you really quickly. Can I?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, we talk about medical malpractice, but this has to do with anything with the internet and the law. So today we're going to talk about the difference between Missouri and Illinois medical malpractice, and there's a lot of differences. But, even though I consider myself an expert at this, and I've done it a long time, I thought, well, I'm going to look up, I'm going to Google the differences just because I don't want to miss a topic or forget, I forgot about that. Here's what I found. I typed in the Googler this morning, I typed this and I typed in difference between Illinois and Missouri medical malpractice. Here, I clipped it, the first paragraph under Google. It says, the main differences are that Missouri requires a detailed affidavit of merit from an expert before the lawsuit can be filed, and it has caps on non-economic damages, while Illinois does not have these pre-suit requirements. That's wrong. That's 100% wrong. Wow. Illinois Rule 735 ILCS 52/622 requires us to have a certificate of merit from a doctor, and then it has to set forth all of the things that the doctor's qualifications are, and everything, not everything, but the things that he says are violations of the standard of care, and that this is a meritorious case. The reason I bring this up is if you had gone into Google and asked Google some basic law questions, and this is under the AI section, the very first thing it said is wrong, demonstrably 100% wrong.
That's a problem.
Yeah, don't trust this stuff. It happens constantly.
Well, and I think this, it brings up a broader point, and this is one that I kind of thought of the other day just because of the things that, we're going through at home. And it's, someone might not know where to go or who to turn to. They don't, have a lawyer in their family. So they Google this stuff, and they get demoralized instantly because the information is just not correct. And that's a really big concern. I mean, really a big one.
Yeah, and what happens also, people assume immediately that even if I talk to a lawyer, that answer is somehow, definitive. And it's not, because I have had people go to one lawyer and then come to my office, and two lawyers that passed that case up, and $1 million later, I'm celebrating and hugging them because the lawyer who they were talking to kind of does injury law but doesn't specialize or doesn't understand the medicine or whatever it is. But the point I'm trying to get to is, you have to ask as many people as possible who are actually qualified, and you don't just type it in. I have had people call me and say, I know a guy who got, $7 million for this injury, and literally I say one or two things. Either one, the guy's lying to you, or two, you need to go find his lawyer and hire him because he's much better than I am, because there's no way I think I can get you that money, because it's not true.
100%. Well, and I think that has to be the most important part of the process when you are looking for a legal team, and is the transparency there. Yeah. Because especially if, it's like me buying a car. I don't know anything about a used car, Keith. I can't tell you what to look for, but if some guy slaps the hood and goes, here you go, this is the deal of a lifetime, I'm going to feel good about it. Yeah. And if you don't know, you don't know until it breaks down. And it's no different than in a legal case where you think, man, I'm going to get $7-10 million on this fender bender, and you're getting 10 grand and maybe if that.
Right. A gentleman wrote to me this morning online and asked about, he had been prosecuted and went to jail for like 24 years.
Wow.
And he said that there were witnesses, that he was innocent and all this other stuff. Well, my first thing out of my mouth is, I don't do criminal law, so I'm not qualified to answer your questions. But he wanted to sue for compensation, well, which is what I do. But then I said to him, this is not the area that I do.
Yeah.
This is not personal injury. This is more of a civil rights lawsuit. So I directed him into an attorney for that. But then I also gently reminded him, many of these prosecutors have immunity, even if they're wrong, because you can't hold these gentlemen and ladies responsible for doing their job and doing it diligently. Now, if they intentionally hide information, that's a different story.
Right.
But if they have two theories and they think this is the theory and they legitimately think it and they prosecute you and you get convicted and they turn out to be wrong, that is not typically something you could sue for. It has to be a level of indifference to the law and the facts that that the court would find compelling enough to let you go forward.
It's just very fascinating. And it goes into, bringing it into this medical malpractice, the Illinois versus Missouri side of things. I think this is one where a lot of folks are going to get a lot of really good information out of, because so many times we hear about these types of cases at least once or twice a year. It hits, the mainstream media, but we really don't understand how it works. And we might think we have a case. Just right off the bat, let's define it. What is medical malpractice, and the difference between those two states? That's the right information, not what Google AI is trying to create.
Yeah. Well, in every medical malpractice case, you have to have an injury that was caused by a provider who failed to do or did do something that a reasonably careful one wouldn't do. That's pretty easy. It's really actually pretty easy. For instance, let's say that you need a certain test run and the doctor doesn't run that test, and it turns out had he run it or she run it, they would have found out that you are allergic to certain medications and so on. That's easy. So in terms of Illinois and Missouri, in those regards, there's no difference between the two states. What we have to essentially prove is exactly the same. But let me give you, people don't quite get this. I pass on hundreds of Missouri medical malpractice cases.
Really?
Every year, hundreds of them that I think I can win, because Missouri has a cap. So let's imagine your child has recently had an injury, and I can prove that your 8-year-old son's leg amputation was due to medical malpractice. And we want to go to trial. Now, let's say that I can prove it was just a terrible case of malpractice by this provider. He wasn't watching what he's doing. He severed the nerve, whatever. He's drinking. Drinking is probably a bad example. But let's say that they were utterly negligent. How much do you think that would be worth?
Oh, man, multiple millions of dollars.
No, you'd think that. Right now, $473,444.
What?
Yeah, that's the cap on a non-economic damage. So the little boy hasn't lost any wages. The medical bills are likely paid by insurance.
Oh, no.
Assuming that they would have to pay for prosthetics and those sorts of things. But the actual loss of his or her leg and the emotional trauma and everything is $473,444. Now, let's assume that they killed your child.
Is this a legislative problem?
Yes. It's
It's
the difference between the Missouri populaces and their elected officials' way of perceiving things. What I find interesting is this. If a cab ran your son over and cut his leg off, there's no cap. I could get millions. If you ran my child's leg off, ran my child over and he lost his leg, I could sue you. Now, do you have millions? No. But hospitals and doctors have to be protected for some reason, even though they're the wealthiest group by any stretch of possible consideration. So let's imagine, though, that in Missouri, the doctor gives your child the wrong medication and kills the child. That cap is $828,529. Now, there's two caps in Missouri. One is for non-economic, what they call non-catastrophic injuries. So your child losing a leg isn't catastrophic in Missouri. Losing an arm isn't catastrophic to the child.
What?
Yeah, that's it. Literally, look it up. It says for it to qualify as truly that level of catastrophic injury, your 8-year-old would have to have both legs cut off, or a leg and an arm cut off, or both arms cut off. So, or be paralyzed from either the neck down or the waist down. Those are catastrophic injuries. So quadriplegia, paraplegia, loss of 2 or more limbs, significant cognitive impairment, so brain damage where he or she sits in a chair, irreversible failure to a major organ, or significant loss of vision. Those qualify for the $800,000. Below that, anything else happens to your child, it's $473,000. It's because it's a child. Now, if it was you or me, we could all go into lost wages, things of that nature. But Illinois doesn't have that cap. Illinois, there was a cap, and the Supreme Court in Illinois said, no, that's for a jury to decide. Now, Missouri has punitive damages, and Illinois doesn't have punitive damages, but none of us really care about that.
Okay.
In Illinois, we really don't. Punitive damages are incredibly difficult to prove. You'd have to prove intent, like the doctor or the nurse intended, and I refuse to believe 99.999% would ever do that.
Right.
So but in Missouri, they have punitive damages and medical malpractice, but the burden you have to prove is almost to get in the person's mind and prove that they wanted this harm to happen to this person, and that's so impossible.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference between the two states is the amount of money you can recover in Illinois is considerably more, and I think just because the jurors decided, than in Missouri. And as a consequence, let's say that your grandmother is 87 years old, has fallen, and she was able to walk, but now she can't walk that well. And I can prove that the treatment is the reason she can't walk that well. Other than her maybe needing home health care, if she doesn't need that, the only damage is this cap. And in that situation, the defendants aren't going to pay it to you, because if they go to trial and they get tagged for $500,000, $800,000, they won't owe it. They only owe the $473,000, so they will never pay the $473,000.
Gotcha, and it makes sense. And man, that to me just blows my mind, to be honest with you.
It's appalling.
Well, and I can only imagine how devastating it is too. And I hate to, because it always makes people think, are you putting a price tag on your child? Or that's the only thing that is going to be close enough to make it just. That's the only thing I can think of, Keith.
Well, think about it this way too: is the good thing about litigation, and people don't realize this or they don't really appreciate it, is it deters us from doing really terribly stupid things.
Yeah.
Because we all think, man, I don't want somebody like Keith to show up at my door. I don't want to get sued by that SOB. Yeah, you don't. So guess what? Don't drink and drive. Don't do these. Don't do these things. And for anything other than medical malpractice in the state of Missouri, you will pay the full price of the damage you caused, but not in medical malpractice. Wow. The wealthiest group, which is surgeons and doctors, by far, as a total class of employment, are surgeons. They have more protection afforded to them than you do, or I do, or a plumber does, or a cab driver, or a trashman, or anyone else.
It's just fascinating to me. And honestly, it's one of those things that's not going to be fixed. It doesn't seem like anytime soon, or be adjusted anytime soon is the proper term. And, when it comes to the factors that impact the value of a case, what goes into, because you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about, maybe it's our grandmother who is retired. She's already getting, her retirement or her Social Security. Does all of that go into it because she's not making that full-time wage anymore if they look at that? Take me through those.
Yeah, there's damages is really one of the big fights at the end, and damages, how much a case can be worth, is probably the second most important decision a lawyer makes, because people have to remember, if I take your case, CJ, and I work it up for 3 years, at the end of that 3 years, let's say I win $400,000. We'll make the math easy, $300,000. So my fee is $100,000. Guess what? I'll lose money on that case, and I'll go out of business, because the 3 years I'm paying myself a salary, I'm paying all of my staff, and I have 8 people and 2 other lawyers, and we don't get paid until the end, and we are paying the money to make your case go. So I'm paying all the money out of my pocket. So at the end of that, if I get $100,000, I'm going to lose money. So I could look at you and say, yeah, I'm going to win your case. It'll take 3 years. it'll be worth about $200,000 to $400,000, and I'm not going to do it because I'll go bankrupt if I do. So other than we start with, can I win this lawsuit is the first question. And the second question is, if I do, how much can I win? Because it's a business. And if we don't treat it like that, there'll be no lawyers to do it. So...
Interesting. Do you have a moment to take a quick break with me?
Sure.
We'll come back and we'll discuss more of this really fascinating topic, medical malpractice, Illinois versus Missouri, with Keith Short right after this on RiverBender.com, Roku TV.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Not sure if you've noticed, but those advertised prices from the other dealers are just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. At Roberts Motors, the advertised price is the price you pay. And that, my friend, is great news for you. Don't fall for their so-called incentives that will leave you banging your head against the wall. Go with Roberts Motors. Prices you can trust and people you will like. That's the Roberts Motors way. And trust me, it's the way to go.
Has free checking become a thing of the past? Not if Liberty has anything to say about it. With 3 free personal checking options and even a free business checking account, free is alive and well at Liberty Bank, the local bank that gives you free checking choices and more cashing in your pocket. Bank locally, bank Liberty. For more information, visit www.bankliberty.com.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
I got to ask you, does it get more difficult? Because I was kind of just thinking about it the last couple of minutes here. If someone's deceased, does it get more difficult when it comes to maybe a surgery or some... We'll start with surgery because I'm sure that there's other things like maybe a prescription leads to certain things happening. But let's say, some grandma or grandpa are in their 70s. They needed this surgery. It wasn't an elective. They get it. Something doesn't go well, and it's because of negligence on behalf of the surgeon. Because they're deceased, do they start looking at, they had previous health concerns and all? Does that all factor in?
Yeah, in fact, it happened to me yesterday. And luckily, this doctor who is a defendant was actually fairly... I wouldn't say compassionate because he was very professional about it, but he was very frank and honest. And a lot of times we'll have them be so evasive, and he wasn't evasive. And I'll give you the example. So yesterday, this doctor, I did a deposition, and he was the anesthesiologist doing a process on this woman, and she dies. And they don't even recognize it because none of the heart monitors are hooked up. Well, my concern was that the doctor might say, or the defendants might take the position that her heart... She had a heart condition 7 years before, and she had a stent put in and some other things, that they were going to say her prior heart condition made her such a high risk for this procedure that that's why she died. And I asked him, I said, do you think her pre-existing condition and surgery had any bearing on the ultimate outcome? And he said, no. No. I said, really? Okay. I was shocked. And I said, so are you going to acknowledge that she was, in fact, a reasonable candidate for the procedure safely? And he said, yeah, she was. And so in that case, which is interesting, it's an ongoing case, so I can't say too much, but what happened yesterday is now a matter of public record. It was done in a deposition in front of other people, but the case is going to be, the doctor has one version of what occurred in this small processing room where an injection, a nerve block was being given. And if he's right, it's unquestionable that the hospital is negligent. So you know what's going to happen when I take the deposition of the nurses.
Yep.
They're going to say a completely different story. And I'm going to go to court and say to the jurors, don't know which one's true.
Right.
But both of these cannot exist in reality.
Well, and when it goes into that, too, I'm sure the emotional strings that are a part of that when it comes to those types of cases can be immense, too, because, just like anyone, we have emotions. And when you're feeling very positive that, an action caused your loved one not to be here, I could only imagine just that journey, and with it being multiple years sometimes or being a longer process, the toll it takes.
Yeah, and, what's difficult for us is we have to have really honest conversations with our own clients, because they'll come in and this is what we typically hear. They'll say, oh, grandma was in really good shape. Grandma was really healthy. And grandma and I always remind them, no, grandma was functional.
Yes.
Because grandma had a pacemaker and grandma had breast cancer 2 years ago and grandma's had her knee replaced. But for her age, grandma was functioning really well. And that's how you tell the story, because it's true. You acknowledge that all of these things happened to grandma and that grandma still functioned. She still went to church. She still shopped for herself. She still cleaned her house. She still played with the grandchildren in the backyard. She functioned really well.
Right.
But the moment you start to say, oh, grandma was really healthy, you give them an ability to run off the list of things and show that that's not true. And you don't want to do that. The truth is always the best offense and defense. So
well, and it makes sense because you don't want to get your head turned around in the middle of a trial or middle of a deposition because we were all just in that same belief that hey grandma still got to bingo every Wednesday and she still took care of this and she was still independent.
Yeah, but for the family members, you have to have the ability to be completely not cruel but candid.
Yeah.
That this is the situation, but she still, statistically had lots of life left. So
well, and we keep, I keep bringing up surgeries and keep bringing up those circumstances. What other actions or acts could qualify under a medical malpractice?
That is a great question because it leads into a second topic, which is. If I go to the doctor and I say, I've got this lump, and the doctor says, it's just a, fatty lipoma, don't worry about it. And it actually fits the characteristics because of it's hard or if it's movable and all these other things that it might be cancer. And the doctor, so I see the doctor, will say in 2020. And the doctor has a reason to suspect or at least check to see if this is cancer, and he doesn't. And then 2025 comes, I spent 5 years, and finally I'm feeling terrible, and they say, you have cancer. And that doctor should have caught it in 2020. Well, the statute of limitations is 2 years.
Wow.
And he missed it in 2020. In Missouri, it's more difficult to pursue that case. In Illinois, it's not. Even though the statute's well past it, the law says you have what's called a continuing care exception. I continued to treat with this doctor, and he continued to do these negligent acts of failing to investigate. And so when it finally was discovered 5 or 6 years later, I can still pursue that as long as the care remained continuous with the same provider, and I had no basis for really knowing this was cancer. I might have thought or worried is it cancer, but I have no basis. I'm trusting the doctor. So there's situations where it's failure to diagnose or giving someone a medication over a number of years.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. That's very fascinating to me. Are those tough to prove because of just the fact that we all age and just chronic conditions come up and different aspects like that?
Yeah. Medication errors, and by the way, they're very, very rare, not simply because the doctors almost always know exactly what they're doing, but the pharmacist is there too.
Gotcha.
And pharmacist also has, while they have no duty under the current Illinois law, which I'm about to challenge, but they have no duty to tell you, hey, this might be dangerous to you. They don't actually have a duty to do that.
Really?
It's called the learned intermediary, and I think it's just insane, and we're going to try to get that knocked down. In the state of Utah, this month, my daughter and paralegal Sam, who's the most dedicated person I've ever met, she isn't even working on this case. The other day, she finds that the state of Utah, which is a very conservative case state as it comes to medical malpractice, the Supreme Court got rid of the learned intermediary, and they said, no, pharmacists, if they know this is going to harm somebody, they have a duty to tell them this is going to harm. They wiped it out. Wow. And I think in my case, Illinois is going to do the same thing, so typically you don't have that kind of situation. And oftentimes the other problem, CJ, is, look, a lot of times when they give you a medication they know will harm you, but the alternative is worse. So it's pick your poison, literally pick your poison. It's the illness you have or the poison you're going to, like Coumadin, for instance, warfarin, blood thinners, can be very toxic. And you have to monitor them very, very carefully. So a doctor has to walk this thin line between keeping you alive and not having a stroke or heart attack, and you're not getting some sort of toxicity. So in those cases, you rarely see those go to trial because we understand
the risk.
Yeah, we as lawyers understand these folks can't. This isn't easy to do, and therefore it's not easy for us to prove. So we stay away from those cases.
Now, this is probably an off the wall question, but if someone knows, like, let's say I'm told, hey, we have to put you on a blood thinner, but I know of the risk, and I'm going, hey, I just don't want to do this, and is the doctor compelled at that point or legally to seek alternative options, or is it, hey, it's one way or this way, and you got to kind of choose here? And that way, they aren't really held accountable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that almost never happens.
Okay,
It's an interesting question, because it does happen a lot where people say, I'm not going to take this. And the doctor notes that against medical advice, they refuse to take it. What happens more often is they leave an emergency room setting because they don't want to wait or something of that nature. But doctors will almost always give you all reasonable alternatives. There's no reason for them not to, and they do. They're really good about it. And usually what happens is this is what happens. Our clients do it all the time. Well, they talk to their cousin who had a bad reaction to something, so they don't want to take it, even though that's a 1 in a million.
Yep.
And so the doctor is looking. It's the same problem I have. I'm looking right at you saying, look, this is what I do for a living. This is what you need to do. You won't do this. And I have patients or clients who do that all the time. And then they come to me and they say, I want you to represent me. Well, like one of the first questions I say to them is, do you smoke? It's really tough for me to stand in front of a jury and tell the jurors how important your health is to you.
Yep.
When on the trial breaks, you're outside smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not. I know a lot of people smoke, and they're wonderful people, and they don't have a lot of other bad habits, but that's one that's tough to get around.
Well, and it's about the honesty and just realism of this, and it might sound harsh to some, where it's like, well, what do you mean that you won't take this? Well, it's just the reality of we have to convince people here that 12 other people, or if is it a full 12?
12.
So it's really important.
In Illinois. In Missouri, I don't have to get all 12.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, that's fascinating. Is it just a majority in Missouri?
Yeah, it's 8 or 9. I can't remember. My goal is always to get all 12, and I don't even think about that. Because that's, to me, you're starting to say, okay, I'm going to lose these group of people, and the better thing is to say, I need to come up with a compelling argument that's going to sell all 12 people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and going into that too, so you take and it takes normally, you said a couple of years to get through to trial, correct?
2 or 3, yeah.
So you finally get to trial after all the depositions and all the other, the mock juries that you do, and we've talked about that process.
Yeah.
You're there. You're at the verdict day. They find in favor of your client. They find in favor of you. How's the payout work? And so if they settle if the court finds that, they find that, this is worth $1.5 million in this case, or it's worth $700,000, how does that payout break down to that client? Because do the bills get covered as part of that court order, or is that included in that $700,000?
It's all included. It's a great question, and this is another instance where Illinois and Missouri are very, very difficult, very different too, very different. One of the big factors in terms of value of a case is how much were the medical bills.
Okay.
So let's say that and there are cases where you could see a leg amputation and the bills are only like $50,000, because once you amputate the leg, there's really nothing else to do other than skin grafting and things like that. It's the person who's in the ICU for 2 weeks, who they're pumping medications in, and they got them on this machine and that machine, and different experts are involved. That bill is going to be $500,000. Here's where Illinois and Missouri are very different. As long as I can prove all that treatment was reasonable, necessary, and related to the negligence, then in Illinois, I can say to the jurors, the medical bills are $500,000, and I want you to give me that, because I have, and we can't tell them this, but I have to repay the insurance.
Yep.
Even though the insurance might have only paid $300,000. In Missouri, the way it works is I can only ask the jury to award me bills that my client actually still owes, or that I can prove will owe. So let's say that the insurance company, the medical bill is $500,000. The insurance company paid $100,000 per a contract, and the hospital just wipes off the other $4,000. Theoretically, I can only ask for that amount because I might have to repay that. Even though the bill is $500,000, I only have to ask the jury for the amount that I would be liable for if I win and somebody asks for their money back.
Wow.
So the value of a case in Illinois could be 5 times greater because I can submit all of the bills than in Missouri. But to answer, though, in a little more fully your question is this. The judge never, and the jurors, they may give an award, but the judge writes a verdict for a dollar amount.
Okay.
And then we are responsible for ensuring that everything sort of gets taken care of.
And now, is that something that your team helps service, is the payout of those bills to insurance, or is that something the client's responsible for?
A good law firm, the really good ones who do what we do, I could list 10 of them that I know off the top of my head, will do this. If they settle your case, they'll sit down and they'll get all the bills and say, all right, are there any unpaid? And if there are, we will help negotiate. You don't do that.
Okay.
We say, let's hang on to this money. In the end, you get a breakdown of every single cent that was awarded. Who got what, where it went, how much I got, how much you get, how much went to this cost or that. But let's say that each one of these microphones is different people who provided help or that we owe. We will call each one of these three and get something in writing saying, is there a balance due? If so, we'll negotiate that down. And if the case is almost settled, it's easier to negotiate than if it is settled. Because if it's almost settled, I can say to them, look, if you don't come down to this number and help me, I can get you paid the number that we agree on. But if I can't get this deal done with the three of you, I have to go to trial. And if I lose, you get nothing.
Yeah.
So, and then once I have the money, they know I've got the money, so they're holding firm for their cut. So all of this has to be done at a very careful time, which is why people shouldn't do this on their own. And I have people like Sam and Erica and Taryn and Tony and all these people whose jobs include this. And they're very good. So what they'll do is not only contact each provider, they'll find out if there's balance due. Then they find out if a bill was paid, who paid it. Then they'll contact that group and say, do you have a lien, which means you get entitled to part of your money back. And then they'll try to negotiate that down. And when we get all that down, so let's say this microphone's lien is $1,000, but Erica gets it down to $500. We've set aside $1,000, so that extra $500, we don't take a fee off. We just hand it to the client, and the same with that one, and the same with that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just such a more important point of why you need a good team. Because if you don't have a reputable firm and a trusted firm that's done this, that could get pretty nasty pretty quick.
Yeah. In fact, I just wrote an article called When You Hire a Lawyer, You're Not Hiring a Lawyer, You're Hiring a Law Firm.
Yeah.
And the reason is people see these advertising lawyers. You're not getting that guy. You're getting one of his associates, and you better hope that person's trained. You better hope the people below him are trained.
Yeah.
We have specifically curated and built a group of people who, frankly, I know are so dedicated not just to the firm, but to me too. Tony, I've known since the day he was born. He's not my child, but I've known Tony forever. Sam is my daughter. So Sam will call me at 9 o'clock at night to talk to me about a case, even though she has 3 children. Tony will email me on a Saturday his thoughts on something. Erica's birthday was yesterday, and yet I still got a text from her at 9 o'clock last night reminding me that I have this program this morning. That's the diligence. And so when Erica said her niece, Taryn, might be a good hire, well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. So we built this team, and it's upstairs and down. I've got a lady downstairs named Rosa. Rosa's been with me, 8 years, 7 years. Wow. Literally the perfect employee. And my daughter works right next to Rosa, and I will say on this radio program, Sam could learn a lot from Rosa. And Rosa could learn a lot from Sam. But Rosa has been literally on time, early, stays late, cares about the clients, never causes a problem, goes out and tries to build the business. They are people who are dedicated to the success of the firm. And that only happens when the clients write really cool Google reviews because the team is that great.
Absolutely. 100% over.
Much more them than me.
Well, and that is such an important point, too, because you have to have a good foundation to be good at the top. You can't just have one good component of a firm. It won't never work.
Yeah, if you're at, it's arrogant as hell, and I'm not going to pretend it's not. If you're at my firm, you better be really good at what you do. Everyone from Karen, who's the first person to meet you when you come in the door, everyone. If you're there, the other lawyers, if you're not really good, because I'm difficult, I'm going to stay on you, and I'm going to make you be better, and if you can't be better, if you don't want to be better, then that's fine. There's other jobs out there. This isn't the spot for you.
100%. And, you know, a couple more, because we're about ready to wrap up here. It's been great talking with you about this, Keith. I got to ask you, the thing that keeps sticking in my mind is, and when it comes to an amputation or a quality of life issue, could be something different. But let's say, you know, CJ at 27 compared to maybe John Smith that retired at 77. You know, we both have the same, we'll go with an amputation. We both have to lose our leg because of the same type of complexity or the same negligence. Would my payout be greater than John Smith's because of the extended life expectancy that I would have comparatively speaking to him.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no question about it. But a good lawyer figures out a way to turn this. Now, think about it this way, too. You have 50 more years to adjust. You have 50 more years to figure out how you're going to enjoy the rest of your life with prosthetic. This older person doesn't have the physical capacity to learn how to do that. And he still has 5 or 10 years left. And guess what? He's worked his whole life, or she has, to get to the age of 65, to retire and now see the world, travel, and have all those adventures. They've worked their whole lives to get to this point, and now they can't walk across the field anymore. They can't walk up a flight of stairs anymore. Or now their spouse is no longer there, so they're alone trying to go into the basement with their laundry and a false leg. So a good lawyer says these will affect people differently and the values will be different. But that doesn't mean that the older person hasn't lost, that their loss in some ways isn't much worse than yours.
Yeah.
One last thing I will tell you, and then if we need to go, we need to go. It's funny how certain things still play. A scar on your face, it just isn't as much as the scar on your girlfriend's face. Mm-hmm. You're a guy. That's sexist. But look, that's still the truth. I'm sitting in front of 12 people, and they will say this. They will think this. Well, look at Keith. He's 60 years old. He's just, look at that face anyway. A scar might make him more attractive. At least it makes him more interesting. But if you saw my wife, who's wonderful, just beautiful, punching way outside my weight division with my wife, a scar to her, the same 2-inch scar across her cheek, is worth much more than it is to me. And to my children, who are even younger, it's worth more to them. So it all depends on where we are and who we are and all those other factors.
This has just been fascinating, Keith. And so as we wrap up here, what should someone do if they even suspect of a malpractice? What's the first step? Because I feel like that could always get people led down the wrong path if they take step one in the wrong direction.
First thing is understand there's a clock running. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Because if your 2 years are over, your 2 years are over. In Illinois or Missouri, there are some exceptions, but that's pretty much it. So first thing is you get to somebody as quickly as you can. Second thing is you have to get to somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Otherwise, what happens is this, that you'll go to your local guy who does a lot of car accident cases, and he's eventually going to call me. Mm-hmm. And time is being wasted. And the other day, somebody called me with a potentially good case, but the statute ran in 10 days. And there's not enough time for me to investigate it. So the first thing is you think about time. The second thing is this is where you get online and you look, and the very first question you should ask that person is, how many of these cases have you tried? Mm-hmm. Because if they say, oh yeah, I'm a good med-mal lawyer, saying like I'm a good airline pilot, well, how many flights have you had? Well, I haven't flown a plane in like 10 years. I'm going to pick somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it. That's pretty much it, because once you get to somebody qualified in this town, they're my competitors, but you get to Lanny Dar, you get to Eric Carlson, you get to me, you get to a lot of other people. They know what they're doing. Yeah. Almost all of them know what they're doing. You just have to get someone who, this is what they do. And you don't go to somebody who's part-time, I do car accidents, or I do family law, or I do one of these other things. Just, you're killing yourself.
So fascinating. Okay, before I let you go, one question for CJ, that if you can share it, the most interesting medical malpractice case you've ever tried.
Well, I don't know if it's, that I've tried?
Or been a part of,
years ago I tried a case for this very nice lady who had an awful, terrible injury happen to her. And she ended up with a hole in her abdomen for over a year. You could actually take the packing out. You could see her organs and everything else. And she ended up with a keloid large scar to where she should not ever wear a seatbelt. She has to wear a girdle the rest of her life. She could never pick her child up again. And it really came down to, she went in for just a little procedure, and there was an injury to her bladder, and all kinds of fluid spilled into the peritoneum. I can tell you one quick thing that's really fascinating?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We have tons of time.
I think I may have told this before, but there was a doctor from St. Louis University who took the stand for the defendants and said this. He said, Mr. Short, we know her bladder wasn't leaking when she left the hospital because urine is so injurious to the peritoneum. It causes so much pain that even if you gave someone heroin, they'd still be in pain. It is just, the body knows there's a problem, and it reacts awfully. He says this. Have I told you this story? Mm-mm. Okay. So I'm sitting there listening to him and thinking, he's a local guy. He's got a great CV. He's saying this is how this works. My paralegal at the time taps me on the shoulder and says, and hands me a stack of papers and says, look at this one page. And I look at it and I see instantly what she means. So I turned to the doctor. I said, so when she returned to the hospital, doctor, can we agree that when they cut her open, urine spilled out everywhere? And he said, yeah. I said, so there was urine in the peritoneal cavity? He said, yeah. I said, and when she arrived, her pain was a 10 out of 10, right? Yeah. He said, yeah. And you told me that urine in the peritoneum cannot be relieved with pain medication, right? He said, yeah. I said, they gave her Percocet about 10 minutes after she got there, right? And he said, yes. And her pain level went from 10 to a 2. I said, I thought you said that pain medication wouldn't relieve this pain, and that's how we know when she left the hospital she didn't have urine spilling out because she wasn't in any pain, right? Mm-hmm. I said, but when she left the hospital, she was on Percocet.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so if you're right, doctor, that urine causes so much pain that painkillers won't stop it, then how come when she came back to the hospital and we all agree she had urine everywhere inside her peritoneal cavity, they gave her Percocet and it dropped from a 10 to a 2? That means you're wrong about medicine.
Yeah.
And I knew that because this paralegal tapped me on the shoulder and said, look at that page. That's the team approach. Because you have to remember, you'd say, well, Keith, why didn't you know that? Well, because it's me against 5 other lawyers.
Yeah.
And it's me, and they've got 7 paralegals, and I got 1 person sit with me, and I'm trying to remember everything all these people have to remember and ask the questions in an articulate way. And luckily, I surround myself with people who are smart and have the nerve or the will to interrupt me and know I'm not going to get upset. I know they're not interrupting me just because they want to. So in any event, we were able to prove unequivocally what this doctor said about medicine. He was either lying or wrong. That was objectively, there's no refuting that. And then there's another story about that case that went on, and it's one of those you take the money when it's on the table kind of stories because it could disappear like that.
Wow.
It's a story for another day.
There we go. Keith, thank you so much for your time, seriously.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. We're going to recap all of that in a write-up on RiverBender.com, and we'll have Keith back on the show in a couple of weeks for more of this legal spotlight and education series. We'll take a quick break. Top of the hour news hits you next after this on Roku and RiverBender.com.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net, to reclaim your space today.
Macias Insurance Agency, providing quality products with extremely competitive prices. As an independent provider, we source multiple companies to offer the best rates possible, covering auto, home, business, and life insurance. Our goal is to provide quality service that meets and exceeds customer expectations. You can rest easy knowing the Macias team is working round the clock to ensure that both you and the most important parts of your life are covered. Our qualified professionals make the insurance process easy so you can live carefree and focus on what matters most. Visit MaciasInsuranceAgency.com today to find out what our team can do for you.
What's up? It's Mike Keith. What's up, bro? Good, my guy. Back to spotlight other amazing alumni and how they discovered their path at Lewis and Clark. Let's jump into it. This is Dwight Wirtz, president of Wirtz Welding and Tank Service, the nation's premier distributor of tank trailer parts. Dwight has been an outspoken and long-time supporter of the college and is the current chairperson of Lewis and Clark Board of Trustees. Oh, and he's a Lewis and Clark grad.
I'm Dwight Wirtz, and I am a trailblazer.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Welcome back to the Best of Our Daily Show on RiverBender.com.
I should not have said that about the bet. I should have waited till all the guests left today.
We've had them in the library before.
Well, you know what my problem problem is, it's not just that. It made me self-conscious about my abilities to capture things because I was not helpful. I was the person that made it worse. Like, I'm just going to be honest before we're going to talk about it. No, I didn't. I almost gave the bird a heart attack, Kevin. Like, this thing didn't make it. Yeah. And PETA could have came.
You know, we had a library. We had a bird in the library one time, and our maintenance man, I am not making this up. It flew past him, and he just caught it in midair. Caught it with his hand. It was kind of still one of the most incredible things I've seen in the library. So
actually, people that have fireplaces in their homes, it's not uncommon for birds to come down the chimney and then get in the house.
See, I haven't had that. I've had a mouse in my furnace, and the sound that made was terrible.
Oh, that's kind of...
I bet.
Well, you know, all jokes aside, we've talked to Hainer Library for the last couple of years, and we've got to take a really behind-the-scenes look at a lot of the programs. We had to take an in-depth look at the events coming up, and, you know, what we've always talked about is just, you know, the resources, but we don't really talk about the need too much. It's always about what is provided to the community. And this time, this is a little bit more exciting because this is a building project and really a historic one for the library district. And Kevin, you're the chairman of the library district and the board, correct?
Correct.
And Mary, you're the executive director.
Yep.
And now take me through this. So Hainer Library is looking for a new building, correct?
Correct. What we're looking to do is right now our lease at Alton Square Mall ends in 4 years.
Yeah.
And so we've been in the mall since the late 80s, but it's time for us to look at possibly building our own facility outside of the mall and to put all of our resources into one building. So the Hainer building downtown will always be a library with the genealogy, I can't say it, local history library. I got it out, yeah. Where it's located, that will always be a library, but the other facility and then Alton Square, to combine them into one main building.
Wow.
And for us to own the building, not lease. Because right now we spend over $20,000 a month in rent.
In rent.
Plus, we're responsible for all of the maintenance.
This is what got me, and I'm so sorry to cut, but we were talking one day, and you had a repair done, and I didn't realize that was on you. And I thought for $20,000, that would be, and not to victimize anyone or make anyone feel bad, but I thought that would have been on the landlord because it's their building, you know?
Correct.
But it's not, and it's not just on you. It's on the taxpayers, too.
Exactly right. So we've been spending $20,000 a month plus all of the maintenance. And for example, like you just talked about, when the HVAC system goes down and has to be replaced, that's on us. The mall is not responsible for that.
And our utilities. We pay the utility
so
bills,
we pay everything.
Yep.
We actually their tax bill, they just divide the tax bill up amongst the tenants, and we have to pay the tax bill. And so it all gets kind of lumped into those fees. So you know, we think that it'd be a better situation, better for the taxpayers if we owned our own building and not pay rent to someone else.
And now, before we go any further about the building, just so I get this clear, it would be the library, and then would it be the local history library too?
Well, that would say probably where it is now.
So that would always stay there.
The Hainer building, no matter what we use it for, will always be Hainer Library building.
And the local history library would probably expand down to the lower level of the building now, where now we have other tech services and we have the administrative offices.
Gotcha.
So they would get more space. And on top of that, there probably will be a section in the new building for that as well.
Do you see this just for like a children's space or anything like that, where you can, I don't want to say children's museum, but almost have that component of it with the new space and the new library? Or is this just for getting the main shell of the library put into place first?
Yeah, are you talking about a potential new building or the current Hainer building?
So the new building, if there was a potential, would that just be for the main library, or would you see the opportunity for some nuanced children's space?
We're looking for all of those opportunities.
Wow.
What can we do that make this better for the community? Not just what we've been doing, but what can we do now? Because right now we're limited because of our space constraints that we have, and this would allow us to dream big and to do other things that we don't have the ability to do now. Just like right now, our performance center room is in a different part of the library or the Alton Square Mall. That would allow us to have everything in one area and more convenient for the public.
For the patrons, because right now, we have a programming room upstairs at Alton Square Mall. which is working as well as it can for, we're trying to make it work, I should say. But some of the issues with that are accessibility. So, as we all know, the escalators at the mall have not worked since May.
Well, and that's what I was saying. You've been on so many times, and you've had to tell people.
Don't come in this way, don't come in that way. If JCPenney is closed, you can't come in that way. And then people will come to the program, but then they never go to the library because they're not in the same facility, and vice versa. So
when it goes back to that main question is, if you're paying $20,000 a month for services and utilities to not work and all of these things, it's again not just the library, it's the taxpayer that's paying that, and that's a question that the taxpayers got to ask themselves if that's what's worth it for them.
Yeah, and the duplication of services too. You're duplicating the downtown library and the Alton Square Library.
Yeah, you're right.
If you can combine them into one, it's one utility bill, it's one set of books, because we duplicate up staffing. And the staffing that we have could be utilized in a really fun way that's more. And not just fun, but more helpful to patrons, because it would allow us to have more one-on-one tech support and more one-on-one reference work and more one-on-one hands-on, helping patrons, getting them out into the community, us out into the community more. So
now it's efficiency too.
Absolutely,
it's so much easier to obviously have everyone under one roof than to have multiple locations and drive or work and just have the disconnect of the cell phone too. Even where do you see this potentially being located?
That's a good question. We don't know yet.
Okay,
we are looking at all of our opportunities.
Okay.
So we're looking at, the Alton area, the Godfrey area. We're looking at, the area around Alton Square itself, because that seemed to be very popular. The Alton Square branch seemed to be very popular with the public. And so
was it the location?
Yeah. I've asked the staff, like when people say, well, the mall's so convenient. And I say, can you follow that up with a question? Is the mall itself convenient or is being on the Beltline convenient? And it's always being on the Beltline. Yeah, because people find it difficult to get into us even at the mall. They have to navigate all the way through the mall.
Yeah. So we're looking at everything. So nothing's off the table.
Okay.
We do know we had a consultant help us come up with a building program. And one thing that we learned was repurposing buildings, in our case, doesn't really work. It actually would cost more to buy an existing building and retrofit it to what we need.
100%.
So it'd be cheaper for us to build brand new. And so that's where we're headed, I think, is that we're looking at, building something that's brand new, that's designed to be a library. The question is where and how much land.
Yeah.
The next step in this process is hiring an architect. And because the architect has to tell us, will this piece of land work or not? And so hopefully we're in the process now of getting we just sent out requests for qualifications for the architects. They're due back in the middle of November. Then first part of December, we'll be interviewing architects, and we hope to have the board approve an architectural firm or a design build firm, one or the other, to help us with that process. And go ahead.
Well, and now after that, how do we know whenever we're really moving here? So we hire the firm, we start these plans.
Yep.
When do you foresee the possibility of that big news of, we potentially found a plot, or we're going to break ground, or what's the process after that? Does that go back to the voter?
That's a good question. It doesn't necessarily go back to the voter at this point. Okay, so what's going to happen is once we hire the architect, then the architect will work with us to do our design build firm. Let me explain real quick what the difference is. An architect's going to come in, they're going to design the building, they're going to do the schematics or whatever that we need, help us identify a site. And then if you do that, then we have to hire a builder, contractor, to come in to do the rest of the work, an engineering firm. So if we do design build, that's like a one-stop shop. So the design build firm would have the architect, they would have the engineers, they would have the design build, they would have everything. And they also assist with the financing side of it as well, help us to identify sources of funding for this program.
Yeah.
And so that's the next step. And so the next step is to do that. Hire the person, probably will be in January when we hire the company.
Okay.
And then shortly after that is to start identifying land, have them do their evaluation of the land. And then hopefully by sometime in the spring, we can go back to the public and say, we've identified a piece of property, this is where it is, and this is our plan.
This is so exciting.
It is exciting. It's exciting because, and I mean, I've been at the library for 30, actually this week I think is my 30th.
No
30th
kidding,
anniversary.
congratulations.
Yeah. But, you know, having gone from being a page, which is, you know, entry level, shelving the books, all the way now to the director. So for 30 years, and Kevin, you've been the same way, you've been on the board for 40 years. I mean, you know, knowing how the buildings, we've had to adapt to these buildings, and we've always had to work for the building. The building has never worked for us.
Right.
And we've made it work. We've made it work. But now, you know, it is exciting to think, like, what could we do for the community? What can we do for the public?
So cool.
And actually have a building that works for us instead of us trying to spend our entire day, where do we put this? How do we make room for this? How does the building, you know, here's the floor plan we have, here's the floor plan we need. How do we make this work? It's exciting.
And it's interesting talking about, you know, buildings, existing buildings, and how you have issues with them. When we renovated the current library downtown, there is one column in that building that everything had to be designed around. And that became a real obstacle to what we really wanted to do, because it came down to that one column. And we don't want to have that problem again, because we did the best we could do to work around that one obstacle.
And existing buildings, a couple of people over the weekend, after they've been reading the newsletters or the news releases and the news articles, have asked me, you know, why not renovate like a school or this, that, or the other? A lot of it comes down to, I think, on average, a library or a building needs about 40 to 50 pounds per square foot of load capacity. Libraries need 150 pounds per square foot of load because of the heaviness of the books.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so a lot of these buildings that people say, oh, what about this school? But they're great ideas, and we've looked at all of these. They don't hold the load, and so then to retrofit a building, you're bringing in steel, you're bringing in things that kind of are cost inefficient.
Well, and too, like if even like the one that makes, there's two, and that would be Clara Barton or McKinley, and both of them are thousands of dollars a month to heat and cool too.
Yeah,
right.
And we've looked at those.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, and Mary talked about how many pounds per square foot. That's exactly why the library moved at Alton Square from the second floor to the ground floor.
That makes sense.
Because when we looked at expanding, because we did look at expanding that facility 10, 15 years ago, when we looked at it, that floor is only rated for like about 50 pounds, 75 pounds per square foot. We needed the 150 pounds per square foot, so that forced us to go down to the main level.
So there's a lot of things that libraries are different in ways that other buildings aren't. When I say we've looked at schools, you know, we've talked about all of this. I should say, you know, we've talked about existing places and
I just think the obvious not even argument, the obvious thought when someone says why build new is very calmly answered by saying, look at what you've accomplished with the space that you've had to work with.
Right.
You've had innovative programs. You've had programs for the first time, really, that a lot of area libraries have seen them, and then they've adapted, or you guys have your network, which was really cool. But, you know, when you're able to create a space that's really yours, think about all the new increases and ways that you can really bring the library to the people. And that's really just, to me, you guys have earned it at this point.
Yeah, we nearly had, I mean, last year we had almost, I think it was 117,000 people that came in and used the library.
It's incredible.
And that's in the facilities that we have now. You know, our thought is, how exciting would it be to have this brand new space where we can offer more and bring even more people? I would love to see that number even double if it would be possible. And I think a new building would allow us to do that.
And and you talked about the new building too. We want to be responsible in what we build.
Yes.
And that was one of the nice things about dealing with our consultant, is he brought up that a lot of, when buildings are designed by architects, nothing against architects, but you have a lot of wasted space.
I can see it.
How do we get around those big vestibules that you walk into, big foyer areas that really don't get utilized, and it's not productive to the building? And so we want to build a building that is, as you walk in the front door, is a productive, flowing building that's of usable space, not wasted space. And because of that, that means the building can be, is not going to be larger than what it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think one important component of this, too, for the public to note is just because you never know what the glass ball is going to tell you in a year or 6 months.
Exactly.
Is that it's not the Alton Library District, too. It's the Hainer Library District that has a couple of different towns and jurisdictions that make up of it.
Correct.
Do you see it ever leaving to where, like you mentioned Godfrey earlier, could the location be in Godfrey instead of, on a Godfrey Road or whatever, comparatively speaking to a Beltline? And, is that something that you're prepared, because it seems like the public really likes those traditions. Is that something that's kind of been talked about yet on?
Definitely has been talked about, and we're not ruling out, anybody, because it's all a part of the district.
Yeah.
And one thing that, in Alton, for example, Alton is always going to have a library within the
downtown
city because of the downtown facility has to be a library. So that's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we look at our population growth? Where's the population center at today? It's changed over
a lot.
50, 60, 70, 80 years or more.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at that too. Where is the population growth? What do we see the future to be? And then look at those alternate sites, whether it's Alton, Godfrey, even Foster Township, because if you think about Foster Township, which is a part of the district, it actually takes in part of Humbert Road.
Yeah.
And so in that general area there. So that's all
interesting.
A possibility.
Yeah, it's a big district. And I think, the board and myself have been really mindful of the fact that it's a big district and everything that Kevin said. And then also being mindful of the fact that we have neighborhoods, of families and people in Alton. I mean, we are looking at everything because we're such a big district. Trying to find something that's geographically close to everybody is a difficult task that has that much space.
You hit it on the head there. And I think that I think at the end of the day, too, this is coming down to a common sense question. Mm-hmm. And I hate to sound so blunt about it because I think that word's overused now, but it really is. I mean, a building that costs you $20,000 a month, so do the math times 12. That scares me. I mean, that's
a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
But then you have all that, but also the pressure that puts on the staff too, because it's not like they are paying the repair bills. But when you always have to worry about something breaking, or you're getting ready to start your day, and boom, here comes water dripping from the ceiling.
And it does almost weekly.
Yep.
Almost weekly.
That's a great note.
Yeah.
And now, what do you think that would do for your staff, though, if you do have a brand new building?
I think the morale, the staff, I have to say, is wonderful. They're fantastic, and their energy and their enthusiasm for their jobs now is off the charts. I think getting into a new building would just bring a lot of life that we already have, but it sparks even greater creativity because we're all together. Instead of trying to man 2 circulation desks and taking up that amount of staff. Now you have 1, and maybe you just have 2 people. And now you have 4 people that can get out and do more story times, more community events, more one-on-one computer work. It's just
it opens up a lot of opportunity for the staff that they don't have now.
Yeah.
And to piggyback too on the sides of the district, our district is over 100 square miles.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. We take in 3 townships. Every township is 36 square miles. Wow. So that's over 100 square miles of territory that we cover. That's a large area.
That is. And that's why I think it's good to notate that, though, for the public in case something does happen where it's in, a Godfrey or a Foster Township at first, and they see that headline and go, what?
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's part of this district, and it's where the map comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Before I let you go, what's the best way for the public to reach out? If they do have questions, is it to a board member in the library district? Is it to this?
They can reach out to Mary. They can reach out to myself. Obviously, they can reach out to any member of the board. But yeah, Mary and myself would probably be your best resources to contact, and we're more than willing to answer any questions that you have.
I'm really excited to follow this process. Because this is historic for Alton, because Hainer Library is one of the most historic components of the city. And I think if you add this is a really exciting chapter.
Yeah.
What's your final thoughts at this point right now for the public?
I think that the public, we want them to be engaged. We want to hear what they think, what their ideas are. Also, too, I want the public to know that this process has been totally transparent.
Yes.
We could have went into executive session to discuss some of these things. We have not done that one time.
That's incredible.
It's been there for the public to see and to hear. We're not trying to hide anything. We want everybody involved.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited by it because, like I said, for 30 years have worked here and seen what a wonderful asset it is to the community. And I just see this as being an opportunity to just expand on that and just be something that Alton and Godfrey, I feel like libraries in general are a place that people aspire, that they should be something bigger than just a building. They're sort of the community place, and I'm excited to see how that works.
And it would be nice to have the CJ Nasello show right there.
Yeah,
in our new building.
Now that would be something too. I think we can make that work. There we go. We'll be keeping you updated. More Daily Show comes your way next, and we will fill you in with a recap article. By State Development joins us on the show. Some exciting news from them. Mary is in the studio again.
Yeah.
Not this Mary.
Oh, yeah,
Mary
different
Lane.
Mary. Okay, I was like, yeah, I am.
Back in a moment.
When you need a project done right, on budget and on time, trust Gillahan Concrete. Gillahan handles every kind of project, big and small. Commercial, industrial, residential, from room additions and garages to patios, driveways, and more. Gillahan brings quality and experience to every job. Family owned with over 30 years of service to our community. Call today at 618-781-3914 or visit GillahanConcrete.com.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Welcome back to the Best of Our Daily Show on RiverBender.com.
Incredible summer. It rained practically not at all from June until about now.
That's fantastic. Well, your backdrop looks cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Well, Stephen,
it's the backdrop of my yard. I'm in my den right now. So.
This is, Stephen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. And we've been kind of loading our audience a little bit with some background on your book, The Extraordinary Disappearance of You, Stephen Kupacki. And let's dive right in. I mean, we're 45 years later. And what I think's so cool about this is that you have the new generations on TikTok and social media. Your story's blowing up.
Oh, is it? I'm not. I mean, I knew there were a number of, there are like millions of TikTok hits before I published the book, but I haven't really kept track of kind of what's going on right now in the moment. So,
well, let's dive right into this. Let's talk about this. Can you describe that day before everything happens? Was there anything a little bit off to you, when you wake up that morning?
Well, I was in a pretty heightened state of awareness. I was about to do the unthinkable or the impossible, and I knew once I did it, my life would be changed forever. There was no going back. It felt like I had a calling, that I was being guided by sort of the universe, the incomprehensible. I was really jazzed up that day.
Wow. Well, and now take me through, if you could, this process, this timeline, if you will, because you disappeared that day for 15 months, correct?
Right.
And
right.
You have no recollection of those 15 months?
No, I have perfect recollection.
Oh, do you? Okay, wanted to make sure. So sorry about that.
Well, the amnesia, when I reemerged, I had to say I didn't remember anything in order to stop the deluge of media.
Yeah.
But also because I wanted to not have my life defined by that event, which is, pretty extraordinary. But more importantly, I wanted to protect my co-conspirators because if all was told way back then their lives would have probably taken a much different trajectory than it has. And so I've been silent to protect them. I also changed the names of the people who were involved in the book. I disguised it as much as I could to protect their privacy. But it's really up to them if they're interested in coming forward or not.
Well, and Stephen, if it's okay, can you take us through some of those 15 months, for our audience? Because I know that we've had a few that have known that you're coming on that did follow your story that way ago and are curious.
Okay, well, it begins kind of in my, I don't get into my childhood. It begins in childhood and adolescence. I was always very rebellious and very curious and wanted to change the world and make it better. I remember, like typical teenager, I wrote about how, the world needs more love. And I was brought up in the Vietnam War era and, all the violence. And, there was always the threat of nuclear holocaust from Russia, environmental destruction. Anyways, there was a lot going on that kind of motivated me. I studied in University of Freiburg for about a year, studied a lot of political science and I felt I needed to do something to change things. So a number of us got together and we decided to form a conspiracy. We called ourselves the Nexalistic Revolutionary Front. I know that sounds weird, Revolutionary Front, but that was kind of the lingo back when. That wasn't an unusual term, though it sounds pretty archaic now and kind of weird.
I was curious.
Yeah. So that's what we did, and we decided that, that I would disappear as a way of cementing the commitment of everybody, but also so I could go underground and develop a kind of collect people together, develop a form of resistance to kind of the power structures that existed. To try to change things from that kind of underground way.
Wow.
Whereas the other people decided to pursue other more traditional avenues in politics, in religion, and in finance.
This is so fascinating. And, in that time period, I'm guessing you guys, and this is just me kind of, my thoughts coming out, and which is always scary. How do you keep yourself hidden for 15 months? I mean, was this just a very elaborate, did you guys have a very intensive network?
No. No, it's, this is the 70s. There's no homeland security. There's no internet. There ain't nothing going on. So I had my passport. I kept my passport. And I let people know for, I don't know, probably at least 6 months that I always carried my passport on me because I didn't know what I wanted. I used to skip school a lot and travel.
Gotcha.
So in the middle of semester, I'd leave and, go somewhere, visit a girlfriend in Germany or something. I'd come back. My academic record was kind of up and down, when I was serious, I'd get A's, and that's so well. So yeah, I'd come back from my adventures and come back and, ace my tests and piss off my professors.
Man, what a time to be alive in the 70s. That's fun.
No, it was great. Yeah. But anyways, there was no surveillance back then. So you could easily travel around, it was very easy. You could not do this now. You would have to have a fake passport and a variety of other things going on. It would be a very elaborate operation. Ours was pretty minimalistic.
That makes sense. Well, and it's good. It's great to note that, and just fascinating all in once, just to kind of take us back to that time. And going forward, 15 months later, was 15 months always kind of your ballpark here? Or did you decide, okay, it's time to reemerge here?
Well, that's a good question. Well, there were a number of things happening. One, my mother never believed I died. I don't know if you read the report. I mean, there were helicopters looking for me, divers. I mean, it was all out kind of, search to find me. And then they presumed that I probably went under the water and died. And my mother knew me a lot better. And she was the only one who believed I wasn't dead. And so she hired a detective agency and was searching for me. And she even, and she wrote these very poignant letters, which are in the book, about, her feelings toward me and looking for me. And, they'll bring me to tears. I really still feel guilty about, the suffering I caused my family and friends back then, but I was, called to a higher vision, a higher mission, that took precedence.
Right. Well, and, I got to ask you, the reemergence and then that reconnecting point with your mom and your family and friends, what's that moment like, especially because they don't know, obviously, what was going on. What was your thought as that moment was getting ready to happen?
Well, I think in the book, I was kind of in a semi-dissociative state when it happened, when I got there, and it was very difficult for me to process because your question earlier was, why 15 months? The other reason was because I couldn't carry out the mission.
Gotcha.
My mission was to go be underground, start a resistance movement, and I tried to do that in different ways, but I couldn't, it's like I was peering over the abyss into becoming a really different person, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't become a sociopath. I couldn't become a killer.
Yeah.
In a sense, I couldn't do it. I never did anything like that, but, I was about to. And when push came to shove, I couldn't do it. And so that was kind of the end of the organization, because it was really built on my ability to do that. Because in the future, if I was successful, big ifs, I was successful, then all of us would get together at some point. So we'd have people in positions of power and influence politically, religion, and financially. And then, of course, the underground movement would get together, and then we would somehow make the world a better place. That's what was different about what we were doing versus kind of what other people had tried in the past.
Can I ask you, was there a moment you realized that this was not working? Because, this is a journey. You're on this and you're building it up. Did you start to notice this? Or?
Yeah. Well, I always had, if you go through the book, you'll see there's a lot of self-doubts. We were pretty sarcastic about sometimes and kind of ridiculed ourselves about what we were doing. I always had, there's a lot of self-reflection about, about it all. I think the clincher is when I joined the French Foreign Legion, and I never officially joined. I didn't actually sign any papers to officially join, because once you join, then if you leave, you're a deserter. But I, witnessed somebody getting pretty much beaten up to the point they maybe were dead. And I had sort of these visions of what it would be like to be in the French Foreign Legion and kind of pursue that path. And that was pretty frightening. It's in the book. And that I couldn't do it. And so that was the end, pretty much. I did go back. Wow. And I went to San Francisco, and I got part of a group called the Collage Shugendo, which is kind of it was run by this kind of mystical, kind of military kind of guy. And, anyway, they're sitting there. But I knew the jig. I knew the end was there. Yeah. Okay. And the group had already broken up in different ways. And then I decided, that I had to reemerge. Yeah. That I had to, there was no, I was at the end.
Well, let me ask you this. How, when you decide, hey, it's time to reemerge here, was there ever any anxiety on your part of getting back to the starting point, or just where do you reemerge from,
I was terrified about what could happen. And it sounds kind of odd, but I felt like a failure. I felt I had failed, the organization. I failed my comrades. I failed everybody, including myself, and there was that part, though I was glad I failed, right. And that because of that failure, it really transformed me into believing that secrecy was not the right way. I became a very ardent supporter of radical transparency. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to develop a different career. And eventually I became a clinical psychologist. I got a master's in linguistics. I was a Fulbright. I did a lot of I pursued a different life, still to help others. My focus has always my life been focused on helping others and trying to improve things. So I've been doing it about it in a much different way than I have. And writing this book is also a way to contribute to the world, and maybe it might be real helpful to people struggling, young people especially struggling with, how to make sense of life and what to do. Because, a lot of that's going on right now in the modern world. A lot of people are pretty desperate, and and some people are, they're flipping out and doing terrible things.
Well, and that's why whenever we got this connected, I thought this is a great time to really talk about this, because, the tie-ins are so fascinating, because you're right. From, worrying about nuclear fallouts every day to constant Cold War escalations and everything else you're going through. Plus the 70s, you had the Iranian gas crisis and everything else that's going on. There's crisis. No different than now. And for some of our younger generations.
Well, I think it's worse now.
Probably.
works now.
And so
in certain ways.
It's just great, though, that you write this to tell your perspective and showcase, hey, I went down a similar thought process, and maybe it does guide somebody, you know, and I think that's very important that you wrote about this. Now, I got to ask you, did you ever tell did your mom know what you did ever, or did we just?
Oh, yeah, when I reemerged.
Did you tell her?
I did tell them the truth about what happened. They really weren't interested in the details, you know, but, you know, I did tell them. My mother was very forgiving, and my father, you know, they were just glad to have their son back, like most moms and dads. My siblings were a little more upset with me for a while.
I bet. Well, and now afterwards, like you said, there's a national conversation about you. I mean, there's helicopters, there's all these things, news coverage. How do you guys navigate? I mean, especially back then, because it seemed like the press were a lot more in your face and a lot more intrusive sometimes, because there's no social media. How do you guys navigate that? Just did the amnesia statement help?
Not a way. It was just me. You know, there was some media at the house. There was, I forget what TV crew and what station came, and you know, they saw me hugging my grandmother. Who actually was a healer. She had a long history of healing in the Catholic Church, almost saint-like. And then my father, my mother, you know, so there was some of that. But then I didn't want to go down that road, you know, and I wasn't ready to go down that road. And I had a lot of TV offers. I refused them all. Actually, what's really interesting about the TV offers is if I had signed any of those contracts, I would have been their slave for life.
Yep.
You know, for those kind of awful contracts. Yep. So I wanted to restart my life, and I began, you know, I actually started working in a factory again, you know, because that's my history. I was grown at 13. I was picking tobacco under, you know, 100-degree temps, you know, and I had to work. I was very much from that kind of background.
Wow.
Father too. And, you know, I also went, you know, there's a big contrast. I went to Deerfield Academy, which is one of the most prestigious prep schools in the country. And, you know, and the contrast from being a poor person, not that poor, but, you know, I worked in order to buy my ties and my suits and all the things you had to wear. And I was with people, you know, during the summer, you know, what did they go for summer? You know, they went to Switzerland for, you know, camp.
Right.
And I was out there working. So, you know, that also really impacted me, the disparity between the rich and powerful and, you know, and people from average. And I, you know, the thing that what I found most interesting is that there were some very smart people I were at with Deerfield Academy, but in general, they weren't any smarter than most of the people in public school.
Right.
They just happen to have money because of inheritance and all this sort of stuff that gave them, you know, privileges that, you know, most of us don't have.
Well, 100%. And, you know, I got to ask you, as we're talking here, got a couple minutes left, what are some of the things that you discovered about yourself, you know, on this 15-month journey? Because that's where I find this most fascinating. Because, I mean, you're going through the journey of a lifetime within yourself. What did you discover spiritually, physically, mentally in that 15 months?
Yeah, the spiritual part is really very important. That goes throughout the book. And I describe some of my spiritual experiences early on in high school and before that. But, you know, during the disappearance, when I was on the ice, it's kind of hard to explain, but kind of in terms of like modern multiverse theory, you can think of it as I kind of bifurcated when I was on the ice. The Nathan T. Stanfield, the person I became, or my AKA, walked off the ice, but another part of me was still on the ice and kind of entered this sort of interdimensional space, which took me, you know, about years to kind of recover those memories about what happened. But there was this sort of connection with beings of light, kind of being in an energy shell of some sort. I was not abducted by UFOs, okay? You know, there was no UFOs, you know, picking me up or doing anything, you know, there was none of that. But, you know, the experiences with these whatevers, I call them the others, you know, was pretty intense. And, you know, I don't know what I learned. I learned something from all that. It's kind of hard to say. I think maybe a lot of my ideas and some of the stuff I've written has something to do with that. What did I learn? I learned, you know, I learned, again, I learned that if you're going to really change the world, you need to do it in a public way. You need to be really transparent. And I think, you know, focusing more on love and compassion and caring is what was really the key.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on for the last 25 minutes and sharing your story. It's been incredible. And before I let you go, what's the best way for us to get a copy of your book, The Disappearance? Is it on the website?
Yeah, if you look on my website, StephenKabacki.com, you can find it there. You can find it on Amazon if you just type my name in. On any Barnes and Noble, any of the booksellers, you can find it there. Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you open the website for me, you'll see I have a number of other writings. I'm writing a book on the multiverse guide to humanity. I'm writing some things on planetary economics, kind of a different way of looking at economics and business, a whole variety of things. So.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much. And I really mean this. This was a hell of a conversation. I had to talk to you, and I'm so glad we got this set up. Maybe in a couple of months, next year, a couple months, we can do something else and have more conversation, because this was great.
No. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great meeting you.
We're going to do a write-up on RiverBender.com for all of you that are just tuning in, so we can link your book and get our hands on a copy. We'll take a quick break. Our Monday morning wraps up after this quick commercial break, and our wrap after this.
Hi. This is Linda Andreas, your Madison County Clerk and Recorder, wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the Clerk's office and from the Recorder's office.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net, to reclaim your space today.
At Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu, we help students of all ages build confidence, discipline, and real-world strength. Join a supportive community that challenges you to grow both on and off the mat. Experience the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 7-day free trial at our new location. Call 618-795-2692 or visit altonelite.com to start your journey today. Train hard, serve others, live elite at Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu.
Tomorrow isn't built by dreamers. It's built by doers. Because progress doesn't work unless we do. So at Ameren, we've been hard at work putting energy to work for you. Adding underground cables, installing advanced switches and sensors, storm hardening poles and power lines, making the energy grid stronger today so it can meet your needs tomorrow. Learn about projects in your area at Ameren.com/energyfuture.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Good, man. Actually, I had a big event out in San Jose, California this weekend, so I'm just got back home and doing my laundry and getting ready to head back out.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and like I said, really sorry about the Friday issues with Zoom, but man, Monster Jam's coming down the pipeline in just about 18 days, September the 20th. This is going to be cool, and I mean, being part of such an iconic team that, I mean, hell, from just nationwide, everyone loves Team Gravedigger. It's got to be so cool to get in that truck each and every time.
It is, man, and you know what? I've kind of quit driving for the points this summer and the trophies, and you know, I kind of always have been this way. And I just drive for the fans, and I go out and have fun, and I always know if I'm having fun that the fans are enjoying it as well.
Well, and you know, especially whenever you're in such a unique environment where fan interaction and that connection is really just so crucial, and something that's really just so special when it comes to this. What's it like to have to be a part of a team that's so connected with those fans and being out on the road? I'm sure you get stopped all the time, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. You know, the fans have been supporting this Gravedigger truck for over 40 years now, and you know, it's something that Dennis Anderson created back in 1982. So to be able to have a legacy that's over 40 years old, I mean, that's special in itself, I think.
Absolutely. And you know, you started competing in Monster Jam in 2016, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
What was that first experience like? Is there anything that can truly prepare you for that?
Not really, honestly. I mean, I was right out of high school. I mean, so it was, I went from high school to driving monster trucks. So it was quite the change in life for me at that point. But yeah, here we are. We're almost 10 years in, and man, it's been an awesome, crazy ride.
What drew you to Gravedigger?
So I just, grew up doing off-road racing and was always kind of a gearhead and a motorsports fanatic. So, now, at the end of high school, I kind of had to figure out what I was going to do. And so I got kind of tied in with the Gravedigger guys. I worked at Digger's Dungeon when I was a junior in high school. So I kind of had that connection there. And like I said, I got the keys to a monster truck when I was 18 years old. So that's way crazy.
I love this, man. And, how do you describe your driving style, for the fans a little bit? Take us through, I guess, the firsthand experience behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite calculated behind the wheel, but I like to push the limits too. So it's you never know what you're going to get out of me. I'm definitely, I try and be the craziest driver on the track at all times.
Well, and going right into that, what's the most challenging aspect of that once you're out there and everything's live and you're on the horn? What's one of the most challenging things that you have done out there? I guess daring if you could, and then also, what's that kind of focus point whenever the lights are on and we're going?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be focused. You got to be ready to go because, racing is that competition, I would say, is like the most stressful for a driver. Not that, I guess stressed, but you got to be the most focused. You got to hit your marks. So you definitely got to be on it for racing. Everything else, there's a little bit of luck involved and a lot of skill involved as well. But I'd say racing you got to hit your marks perfect.
Well, and now going back to the first part of this conversation, you were saying how you aren't really necessarily looking for, at the points too much. And, why is that? Just because I know that you've had, 7 series championships?
Yeah, 7-time series champion now. So, at some point, I'm not saying that I have enough trophies and I'm not sick of winning or anything like that, but I'm just to the point now where I'm just going out to have fun. I just want to have a ball myself, and I want to make sure the fans enjoy themselves as well, and make sure that they're going to come back and see us and that they had a good time.
Well, and now when it comes to just your development, who do you credit that in terms of just learning the vehicle a little bit, and also just your development throughout Monster Jam? Any role models or anyone that's really helped kind of guide you on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, the Anderson family has had the biggest influence on me, I'd say. I mean, working for Adam when I was, 16 years old, driving the ride truck out at Digger's Dungeon. And then, me and Ryan have been on tour quite a bit after that. But, Dennis Anderson, everybody always obviously looks up to him. Growing up, that was kind of my idol. Who's he not their idol, So definitely just cool to be driving the Gravedigger truck and behind the wheel. And, I can't wait to get to St. Louis, man. I'm very excited. And
that's right.
Yeah, definitely can't wait for that event.
Well, and now that takes me to kind of just the last couple of questions before we start talking Monster Jam here in St. Louis. And you were just out on the road. You were in San Jose. What's it like to balance that schedule? Because I'm sure that can get grueling at times.
Yeah, I mean, I get only a couple days at home a week. So definitely. Wow. Definitely try and enjoy that. I fly back on Sundays and Mondays, and I'm back out on Thursday mornings. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the life for the week, that's for sure. If you don't like traveling or if you don't like being gone from home, this definitely wouldn't be the job for you. So, definitely, yeah, work-life balance is definitely key. I enjoy a good relaxation day when I get home for sure. So.
Now, I got to ask you, when you're out on the road, is there like a go-to not only playlist but also snack bag repertoire? Because only people that have traveled as much really know that you have to really have these things ready to go and to have a successful trip.
Yeah, I honestly just listen to whatever when I'm on the plane. I mean, can't listen to the same thing all the time. Snack-wise, I'm not much of a snacker, so I don't really carry many snacks with me when I travel.
That's fair. I carry just a couple of shooters just to get through that flight, but we'll get through it together, But, Tyler, take me into Monster Jam in St. Louis, especially at being in such an iconic venue and really just an event that's drawn generation after generation. What are you excited for the most coming into St. Louis on the 20th of September?
Honestly, I got to say, I only live 5 hours away from St. Louis, so I'm actually going to get to drive to that one, and just going to have some friends and family in the house. So that'll be awesome. That doesn't happen too often, maybe once a year, twice a year. So that's going to be cool. And, just St. Louis in general, it's one of our biggest floors, biggest stadiums we do. So I'm ready to kind of let loose inside the dome. That's for sure.
And real quick too, just because I find this aspect of it fascinating. Take me through what you hope fans who have never gone to maybe a Monster Jam before, maybe this is the first time for their little one, for themselves. What do you hope they get out of this, and what tips can you give them to really have just the time of their life?
Yeah, I mean, just make sure you bring your headphones, of course. It's monster trucks are loud, and yeah, I mean, even if you've been to a Monster Jam 5-6 years ago. I always say this, you could have been to a Monster Jam then. It's going to be different now. It's, Monster Jam, that's the coolest thing about it, is different every time you go. It's family-fueled fun. We have a great time. I've never heard of anybody leaving a Monster Jam unhappy. So definitely get your butts down there in St. Louis. And, yeah, I can't wait to see everybody on the 20th.
And now the event does start at 3 p.m., but that pit party will be open from 10:30 to 1:30 p.m. The event ticket and pit party passes are required for those entries. And, hey, I have one final question for you, just because I think it's a fun one. If you weren't driving monster trucks right now, Tyler, what do you think you'd be doing?
I always wanted to be like a welder of some sort, I think. So that was my secondary idea when I was in high school. So
that's awesome, man. Well, real quick, what was that first moment like in Gravedigger? Do you remember that? Just because to me, that's got to be one of those moments that kind of imprints on you. When you first turn that, you first get in there and turn the engine on.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was Birmingham, Alabama, 2017 in January. So. It was my first rip in the Gravedigger, and yeah, man, it was very, very exciting. I'll never forget it.
This is so cool. You guys can see Gravedigger Tyler in action. 3 p.m. is the event time on the 20th of September. That's a Saturday. That pit party, 10:30 to 1:30. And then, Tyler, before I let you go, any sneak peeks of what fans can expect from you out there?
Just be ready. I'm going to get crazy in the dome. I can't wait. And, yeah. See everybody down there on the 20th.
Awesome. Hey, Tyler, thank you so much for your time. We'll link everything in a write-up on RiverBender.com and really appreciate your patience on the tech side.
Yeah, no problem, man. Appreciate it.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with more Daily Show on this Tuesday morning right after this.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
As America prepares to celebrate 250 years of freedom, there's never been a better time to show your pride. The Flag Keeper provides everything you need to display your flag with honor, from American state and U.S. Armed Service flags to flagpoles, accessories, and installation kits for homes and businesses across the Riverbend area. Call 618-467-0020 or visit theflagkeeper.com for your free estimate today. Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Tomorrow isn't built by dreamers. It's built by doers. Because progress doesn't work unless we do. So at Ameren, we've been hard at work putting energy to work for you. Adding underground cables, installing advanced switches and sensors, storm hardening poles and power lines, making the energy grid stronger today so it can meet your needs tomorrow. Learn about projects in your area at Ameren.com/energyfuture.
At Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu, we help students of all ages build confidence, discipline, and real-world strength. Join a supportive community that challenges you to grow both on and off the mat. Experience the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 7-day free trial at our new location. Call 618-795-2692 or visit altonelite.com to start your journey today. Train hard, serve others, live elite at Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu.
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net to reclaim your space today.
Welcome back to the Best of Our Daily Show on RiverBender.com.
And really, this is a busy day for you guys. Saturday on July the 19th, that's this Saturday, you can stop by Sinclair Foods, celebrate 85 years with them, 11 a.m. until 5 p.m., and just jam-packed in those 6 hours.
Yes.
Now take me through it. What are we going to see and expect?
Okay, so we're having lots of special guests that day from 11 to 5, like he said, all kinds of stuff. The biggest, well, literal biggest guest we're going to have is Bigfoot Monster Truck's going to be there.
Incredible. That's going to be awesome.
And they're there for pictures. I had to promise the store owner stand we would not have, they would not be crunching cars.
That's only for the people who park in the handicap spots without stickers.
Oh.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, we have. So they're just there to take pictures. We're going to have a local author, Elaine, I'm going to mispronounce her name, LeVay, she's actually the librarian at our West Elementary and Grafton Elementary Schools in Jerseyville. She just had a book published, and she's going to be there doing a story time at 1 o'clock. Her
really
book
cool.
is super cute. And then she's going to be doing a book signing at 1:30, and it's going to have books there, people to buy. My kids love her, and they love her books.
Well, and now is this one of her first? She's
Yes.
done a couple now, or first
This
book?
is her first book she's ever had published.
And this is called On the Farm.
Yes.
This is really cool. I like the local touch that you're adding to that too, and making it what Sinclair's all about.
Yes, all of our stuff we're having here, all the things they have have connection to Jerseyville or Jersey County.
Awesome.
Even Bigfoot. A lot of people don't realize the Bigfoot monster truck in the late 80s, early 90s. They used to practice in Jersey County, right outside of town.
Right. That's well, and see, that's what I think. So, like, I was going through while we were on the break and going through and taking a look, and I think that's what I love about this the most is that you're really tailor making this event to match the image of Sinclair. And before we go any further into the event, 85 years, there's a lot of history with Sinclair Foods. And take me through a little bit of it, if it's okay.
Okay. Sinclair Foods was founded on July 4th, 1940. The founder was actually the store owner, Stan. It was his dad who founded it.
Wow.
They started with one store. I can't remember where it was located. I am sorry about that. But then they went to two stores, one on the east side of town, one on the west side of town. And actually, the west side of town is kind of cool. The west side building still stands. That is where the current school district building is.
Really cool.
And the east side of town building was recently tore down. But in 1991, they built the current location, which is where the store is now. Excuse me. And then since that time, it has been at that location. And it's just been there since then. And we have really appreciated all the support that the entire Riverbend area has given the store since then. The last 2 years, the store has won the Best of the Best award from the Alton Telegraph, which we really appreciate. Stan says he is overwhelmed by the continued support that this area has given our store. Stan himself turned 80. He's turning 86 this next week.
That's an exciting
I don't know
week.
if you guys know this or not. He is in the store almost every day.
It's incredible.
It's very rare to see that man miss a day of work.
It's incredible. Well, and on top of that, because you're right. I mean, Sinclair, hell, from all over the Riverbend, we've stopped in and seen you at one point in time, it seems like. And the other thing, though, is you guys have been there for the community, and that's something that the partnership and the relationship that, Sinclair Foods and the region have is really unique because, it's always about supporting each other. And you guys do that very well.
Yeah.
Well, and now also a part of this weekend, which is July 19th over there at Sinclair Foods. And if you need the address, I don't know why you would. Everyone knows where you guys are located, or should. 202 Sinclair Drive, and that's, right there in Jerseyville. Now, princesses are going to be there too?
Yes, we are having Rapunzel there. Well, it's sorry, I got to legally say, the princess from the tower.
Yep.
Is going to be there. But the princess has asked me to let any little girls know that her hair only glows in her own kingdom.
That makes sense.
Whenever she leaves, so when she's visiting us in Jerseyville, her hair does not glow. Now, unfortunately, though, she will not be there the whole day. Mm-hmm. She has prior engagements and needs to leave for those engagements around 3:00.
That's still enough time, though, to get up there and take a picture and meet with them for a little bit.
And she's going to be wandering all over the store because word has it she has a weakness for our whipped icing, like most people do in the area. So she's going to be there. We're also going to be joined by a certain little blue puppy from Australia who's very popular with little kids right now.
And my dog, he loves that show.
Oh, and speaking of dogs, there's also a big red dog that's going to be there too. But he's going to be there in his smaller form because in his bigger form he does not fit in the store.
Yeah, no, he probably wouldn't. I love this. And now you're also having some performances. Now, who's going to be performing?
Haley Jones is going to be performing, and Ava Tonzer is going to be performing.
Okay.
They're both really kind of unknowns, but they are both young ladies who worked at Ava currently works in our bakery, and Haley used to work at our store. She currently works at Bakers and Hale, but Haley was actually just in the Miss Jersey County pageant. She didn't win, but she was in it.
Really cool.
And Stan actually stopped her in the store and was like, "You're going to perform for us, right?" And when he asks you that, you can't exactly say no. So
this is I get that one pretty quick.
Yeah, and also Big Ed's Hooked on Fishing is going to be there. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not. He is a local guy for Jerseyville. He travels to a lot of these fishing shows and stuff, and he basically lets the kids know that, learning about the outdoors can be fun. He has an archery set thing he's going to set up.
That's awesome.
So kids can practice archery.
This is really cool. This is fun for the whole family.
Yeah, and speaking of whole family, some of our top vendors are going to do sampling.
Oh, wow.
And I have word that a certain king of beers might be doing some sampling. So, it's like not very much, but just don't get a taste. So it's going to be all kinds of fun stuff. And we're going to do some drawings throughout the day. So
what are we winning?
I'm
nosy.
There's some chairs from Budweiser. And I know Pepsi is donating some things too.
That's super.
And we have a coloring contest going too, which all ages can enter.
Okay.
But we're not deciding the winner on that until next week because
just a lot going on.
Yes.
I bet there is. Well, and now there's so much more that's going to be a part of this. Why don't we do this and take a break? We'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more about all the other details. There's so much more fun to have. Cheers to 85 years of Sinclair Foods this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we'll come back with more conversations on it right after this.
At Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu, we help students of all ages build confidence, discipline, and real-world strength. Join a supportive community that challenges you to grow both on and off the mat. Experience the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 7-day free trial at our new location. Call 618-795-2692 or visit altonelite.com to start your journey today. Train hard, serve others, live elite at Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu. When you need a project done right, on budget, and on time, trust Gillahan Concrete. Gillahan handles every kind of project, big and small. Commercial, industrial, residential, from room additions and garages to patios, driveways, and more. Gillahan brings quality and experience to every job. Family owned with over 30 years of service to our community. Call today at 618-781-3914 or visit GillahanConcrete.com.